Hello people. Right, so apologies for not doing a Smallville review last night. I was uber tired. Obviously was at work, went to the cinema to see Resident Evil Afterlife, and when I got home I was so knackered. Did the review, but I also did watch a season 9 episode of Smallville, and after that I was tired. I went to bed because I had work again this morning. So sincere apologies, but here I am doing a review for you today. I was originally going to do Descent, but then I realised that I have actually already done it. This was on Christmas Day last year, so if you want to check that review out, it is titled under Smallville Surprise Review. Okay, so if you want to see that, go for it. Anyway, excuse me, hello. Doing this review for the episode Hero, also from season 7, and this is where we see the return of Pete Ross. Comes back to town. He's suddenly become some sort of event gig coordinator. He comes back to find out that Chloe, Lana, and Lionel Luthor all know Clark's secret. The other thing that he also lets on is that he's now gained a new ability through Stride chewing gum, which have been dipped in kryptonite, because he saved Kara from an accident, and without even knowing, he just grabbed his arms out. They suddenly elongated, and he rescues Kara from being hit by a set of speakers at this gig, and that's when everybody started thinking, oh hello, what's going on here? Pete wants to do an interview. He approaches Jimmy. Jimmy gets all excited. He tells Chloe. Chloe's thinking, no, that's not a good idea. Then we find that Lex, who's obviously now at the Daily Planet, is spying on Chloe. In order for that not to continue any further, Pete decides to set up a virus on Lex's computer. But then Lex catches him, and then uses Chloe as a bargaining chip for Pete to do a job for him, which is steal something from Lionel Luthor's safe, which happens to be Kara's bracelet. Clark catches Pete in the action, and then that's when he realizes that Lionel was hiding said bracelet in his vault, and then Clark says to Lionel that they're going to have words. Then Clark goes to rescue Pete, and it kind of makes me think that Pete comes back, and it's like, well, why did you come back? I'm not saying that Pete shouldn't have come back, but there was no real significance. I think they just brought him back just as a way of saying, Pete is still out there. I suppose in some ways that Pete Ross is still around, he's still out there, but he wasn't. I felt that in some ways, the way that Pete was in this episode, he was too hot-headed, he was cocky, he was arrogant, he was feeling all full of himself. Like in the episode, oh god, it's the one where he's doing the high-speed racing, basically the car racing, and I've completely forgotten what the episode is called. I think it's called Vertigo, I can't remember. But it's like that, where he gets all cocky and arrogant because he's this, he's that. He suddenly has this new ability, he can do whatever he wants, he feels invulnerable, when in fact he's not. Clark's trying to make him realise that, yes, he's got a new ability, but he needs to not, go too far with it, because Clark has seen what ordinary people can behave like when they're given a super ability of some sort, and it never turns out well. So he's trying to tell Pete to get rid of his abilities, but Pete's not listening, and that's when he goes after Lex and this, that and the other. But that aside, the thing that I liked about this episode, when I actually watched it again this year, what I noticed was that Pete's ability reminded me of a certain DC Comics character who goes by the name of Elongated Man. His alter ego is Ralph Dibny, and I believe is some sort of private detective, like forensic scientist or something, I believe. And his ability involves drinking a form of liquor with some sort of special chemical or ingredient that enables his body to stretch and flex in many impossible ways that you never thought possible, basically. And this episode pretty much reminded me of that, and I remember tweeting about it as well when I was watching it. And you know, I said to a lot of people, you know, does anyone know who Elongated Man? And you would have no idea how many people have said no. And I just thought, well, you guys really don't know DC comics and the DC characters that well, do you? Because, you know, I'm sitting there and all I can see is Elongated Man, you know. But that is what I love about the show, is that if they're not able to bring in a specific character, then they will pay homage or make a nod towards that character, or maybe not the character but like an event or a storyline, something like that. And in the case of Hero, that's what they did with Pete Ross. You know, they brought him back, they said, oh, what should we do with him? Oh, I'll tell you what, we'll give him an ability. What kind of ability? How about a stretching ability like Elongated Man? Brilliant, let's do that. And it worked in some scale, it worked, and for me it did, and I was quite pleased with it. And okay, maybe it would have been better to actually bring Ralph himself into Smallville, but it still worked as far as I'm concerned. And you know, it was Pete eating kryptonite chewing gum that enabled him to have the stretching ability, and in the comics Ralph Dibny drinks some form of liquor that allows him to have a stretching ability. So it's got similarities, it's there, and that's what I loved about it. So, but that's it from me. I'm going on a bit too long as usual, but now you have to pick me one last episode to do till season 10 starts. So next Friday is my last review till season 10 begins, and then I can start doing season 10 reviews. Woohoo! So hit me with what you've got, and I'll see you next Friday. Good night.